have been many questions all along, and which have been sent to me. I will start chronologically the questions that have been asked by various audience. The first question was that are febrile conditions or fever seen in multiple myeloma? So, as Deepika, our clinician, although she has some
Excuse me, ma'am. Yeah,
different.
ma'am. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm here, so I will
Okay. So
answer
Deepika
this.
is here. She will
Yes,
answer
yes,
this
yes.
question.
So,
Are febrile conditions or
most of
higher?
the times, multiple myeloma patients, they don't present per se because of the disease with fever, but these patients, they have immunoparesis. So we can see that the affected antibody, that is like if IgG is there, then Ig immunoglobulin G will be high, and rest of the immunoglobulins, that is M and A, they will be low. So there is an immunoparesis. So there is a dysfunctional immunoglobulins are there. So most of these patients, when we start the treatment, or they present late to us, these patients, they present with high grade fever. Why? Because of the infections they catch. So they catch the infections and they develop pneumonias most of the time. So because of that, they develop fever.
So, coming to the next question, I think this is for Dr. Komal, can you elaborate on MGUS?
Yeah, basically MGUS is monoclonal gammopathy
I think you
of
already did that.
undetermined significance. I'll again share the criteria. Yeah. So it will be just a revision of what has been done. See, as you can see here, the serum M protein or the monoclonal protein is less than 3 grams. Plasma cell percentage is less than 10%. In the bone marrow, there are no lytic lesions or no crab-related symptoms. As I told you, no anemia, no hypercalcemia, renal failure. It is basically, there is M band, but it is less than the prescribed 3 grams range.
I think that answers the question of MGUS, monoclonal gammopathy of undetermined significance. But what is most recent is monoclonal gammopathy of clinical significance and renal significance and neurological. So small bands that we have been reporting for years. Now people have associated them with a lot of clinically, besides myeloma, other clinical scenarios that are important. And features of amyloidosis related with multiple myeloma. Either Dr. Ritu or Dr. Komal, whoever wants to take that question. Features of amyloidosis related with multiple myeloma. Or even Deepika is there? She's left.
See, depends. It is an AL amyloidosis in multiple myeloma. And amyloidosis can be an MGCS, monoclonal gammopathy of clinical significance with just AL amyloidosis, or amyloidosis occurring with multiple myeloma. Now, in multiple myeloma, if it's generally if it's a lambda myeloma or a free light chain myeloma, along with the criteria of multiple myeloma of more than 10% clonal plasma cells, you get a myeloid deposit. You may see it in the blood vessels in the bone marrow. You may see it. You may see clinical features. These patients typically have nephrotic range proteinuria, because AL amyloidosis always causes a nephrotic range proteinuria, unlike the myeloma kidney, where the kappa causes the cast nephropathy. Here you get generally proteinuria, which is in the nephrotic range. Um, Multiple myeloma with amyloidosis falls into high risk myeloma, because you'll get high risk mutations or TP53, or you'll get high risk mutations in these patients, and they have to be treated as high risk myeloma. So Dr. Deepika told you the treatment of high risk myeloma compared to standard risk. Multiple myeloma with amyloidosis is also treated as high risk myeloma.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is for Dr. Ritu. Dr. Ritu, as you said that fish cytogenetics is essential for prognostication of multiple myeloma. Can you elaborate when and what kind of a sample do you need to do fish cytogenetics for multiple myeloma? And at what time point we should decide to do this?
Yeah, so fish cytogenetics has to be done at the time of diagnosis itself to stage the patient. Whether high-risk cytogenetic abnormalities are present or not, and a heparin sample is required for a fish analysis. 2 ml heparin sample you require, and for that bone marrow sample is the one which is required, because the number of plasma cells has to be enough to put probes, and we are going to put almost 10 to 12 probes if you're going for the M-SMART classification. But ISS has done studies that majority of the high risk, the minimum 3 markers are definitely required. If for a under-resourced, if you cannot go for the extensive panel, then deletion 17p, 414 and 416. These are definitely required. So, and also 1Q gain has been now considered important. Apart from that, if you are getting trisomies, then you can put these 3 color panels of 5, 9, 15 for trisomic myelomas. Basically, for the staging, you have to do it at the time. However, after the response to therapy and during the treatment, there can be gain of mutations. Like 1Q gain, TP53 deletion can happen if the disease progresses, and that is again a poor risk marker. So this can happen at the time of relapse, or when you want to see the progression at the end of 2 years sometimes, or during the treatment. If there is a relapse, then you have to do FISH myeloma again the FISH has to be repeated. Because prognostication is a very dynamic thing. If you read the literature, they say that after you have to see the course of the disease, the treatment response, as Jyoti ma'am has told about the MRD assessment. Even FISH is required to reprognosticate a case, just to see if any clone which is developing a new mutation.
So that means at the diagnosis and whenever the clinicians are doing a bone marrow, heparin sample is also must to
Yes.
be taken. So these are things you need to know upfront. And there have been other questions, like simpler questions, like what is the criteria for plasma cell leukemia, 20% or 30%?
No, it is 5% now.
5%.
So more
And
than 5% circulating plasma cell is plasma cell leukemia now, and it is again a risk for progression, and otherwise a poor risk. Not as isolated, however, because we have seen the staging has to be on basis the 4 criteria, minimum 4 criteria for ISS, which is beta-2 microglobulin, albumin, high risk cytogenetics of interface FISH, and LDH level. So these are must. Along with that, if there are the slide which I showed where there are high risk for progression, includes the extramedullary disease, more than 5% circulating plasma cells, and the gain of even MYC translocation, gain of 1Q. These are the latest included in the risk of progression.
so Dr. Kumar, you even mentioned about osteosclerotic multiple myeloma. So osteosclerotic multiple myeloma, does it have any prognostic impact? I think Dr. Komal has already left. There was a question for Dr. Komal is there?
Yeah. Osteosclerotic myeloma, you said, na? This constitutes the syndrome, the Poems syndrome, where we have osteosclerotic instead of the typical osteolytic lesions. It is associated with other organopathy and neuropathy, endocrinopathy and polyneuropathy. So it has additional symptoms apart from the myeloma profiles.
So there was a question with Dr. Deepika is there. I think she already answers. What is the scenario of transplant acceptance in the Indian population in general, or is more preference given to drug therapy? So Deepika had already answered this on the text that the transplant is available and done more often in the metro city. In smaller setups, it is difficult to convince the patient for the transplant. So I think that answers most of our questions. The CAR-T therapy on treatment of multiple myeloma is increasing popularity in West. I think Deepika already mentioned CAR-T therapy in her presentation.
I would just like to tell one thing. Even in the US, CAR-T is approved for relapsed refractory myeloma who has failed 2 therapies. So this people in India should understand, because everyone, sometimes
not
patient
an
also
upfront
come upfront,
treatment.
hamara CAR-T kar do. So CAR-T abroad is also approved. They give insurance money only if the patient has failed 2 standard therapies. So CAR-T is the treatment only for relapsed refractory multiple myeloma and not upfront therapy.
Thank you, ma'am. I think we can end our webinar on that note. This has been they have been excellent speakers, and we had so much to learn from all of you. And thank you again, and thank you, Kaho, for bringing us all together. And I think the audience as well as us all have had a lot to take home today. Thank you so much.
Thank you a lot to Kaho for getting such a good
Yes.
conference CME organized for everyone. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you,
on-
Dr.
Thank you,
Gupta.
team
Thank
Kaho,
you,
and thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank
And
you.
on behalf of Kaho Diagnostic Division, heartfelt gratitude and thanks to Dr. Jyoti, Dr. Ritu, Dr. Komal, and to Dr. Deepika. Wonderful session. And also to Dr. Sabina for moderating it so beautifully. So thank you all.
Thank
I'm looking forward to have many more associations with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am.
you.